Okay, Mr. Garcia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to our witnesses also for being here. General Sedulli, thank you for joining us today. I appreciated your testimony especially, and I want to thank you for the decades of service, of course, to our nation. I want to start by just getting a few facts out of the way quickly. I'm sure that anyone who saw the movie Oppenheimer, which was my favorite movie of the year, is familiar with the Red Scare, and obviously you as a historian also are familiar with the Army McCarthy hearings, which seem to be replayed over and over again in this House. Now, I'm disappointed that some of my colleagues also seem to want to replay those hearings and those scare tactics. But since you're here, I just want to ask you very clearly, is the military being destroyed by Marxist ideology?
No, it's not. Excuse me, no, it's not. And I don't really even understand how you can say it's Marxist. At least I studied Marxism, and I don't understand how it relates at all.
I agree with you, sir. And in your experience as a professor also at West Point and in your 36 years of service in uniform, did you see any evidence of leftist indoctrination?
No.
How about of critical race theory?
No.
Have you ever seen Antifa infiltrating our military?
No.
Well, thank you, General. Now, I'm sure we can all feel a bit better knowing that there is no large communist menace or Antifa or others plotting to overthrow the U.S. military, which we know remains the strongest in the world, and we all, I think, in a bipartisan way, agree that we have the best military in the world and that we're very proud of. Now, General, in all seriousness, can you explain why policies that promote a military that reflects the diversity of our country and allows everyone to serve no matter who they love, one that protects female soldiers from harassment, and actually promotes and improves our national security, how does that actually reflect, how does that improve our actual military?
Thank you, Congressman. I really believe that we look at a period before we had this, which is the 1960s, and see how terrible the military was. And the military imploded without that. And if we have an army, that's what I'm familiar with, that has right now, over 20% African American, and yet have almost no leadership in that role, then we're going to have problems. We don't have quota system. I was on the admissions committee at West Point. We don't have quotas there, but we do want to make sure that that we look like our client. Our client is the American people, and we want to make sure we reflect that. I have found that diversity policies make us a stronger nation and a stronger country, and I'm unfamiliar with anything that make diversity policy somehow is going to melt our brains in some way when we take them. It's not been my experience.
And I would agree. I mean, it's clear that a more diverse military is good for our national security and is good as a reflection of the whole country. And I think the question is do we want a military that actually reflects the entire country? As an LGBTQ American myself, I also understand very clearly that it wasn't that long ago that an openly gay person, an open person from my community could not contribute their talents in the military, but it's been changes to policy and implementation that have made our military more reflective of who we are as a society, and so I appreciate your comments. General, can you remind us about some of the challenges our military has had to overcome as it relates to segregation and as it relates to racial tensions within ranks?
Yes, remember, we were a segregated Army really into the 1970s. We had very few cadets at West Point. We had only 23 naval midshipmen in 1970. That's 0.5%. We continued to have very low levels of general officers and in the Army and in all services into the 1990s and beyond. So we have always had a problem making sure that the Army leadership or the military leadership reflects the enlisted ranks. And when we don't do that, we have problems. And we saw that in the 1960s and the 1970s. It's the same thing with other underrepresented minorities. But remember, it's this body that changed it. It ended Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It brought women to West Point. It ended the combat exclusion. Congress is the one that did that. Congress is the one that really changes the military.
And General, would you agree that it's been, like you said, it's been laws, it's been the intervention by Congress, it's been policy changes that have actually had to have been forced sometimes on the military to actually improve diversity amongst its ranks?
It's only been that usually. We did not integrate when there was an executive order. It was only when Congress did in the 1973 Equal Opportunity Act that really started that and put equal opportunity people in every battalion in the Army.
And so I think it's pretty clear that in order to achieve a military that reflects the rest of the country, Congress needs to push and create action. And I appreciate all the efforts that have happened in the past to actually create a military that reflects the country. And this idea that we should go backwards or that we shouldn't embrace diversity, to me, is totally insane and crazy. Finally, what actually poses a bigger military threat to national security? Policies to promote cohesion and tolerance and diversity within our military, or a historic disruption to officer promotions caused by Senator Tuberville's publicity stunt?
Senator Tuberville, I think Senator Sullivan probably said it best on the floor. Why punish people who seriously sacrifice for America? Why punish patriotic military members over a policy dispute they had nothing to do with and can't fix? This is a huge readiness challenge and a huge morale challenge. And yet, amazingly, not one member of those general officers ever made a public complaint about it. It shows the professionalism of our General Officer Corps that no one made a complaint despite the disruption and cruelty of that policy by Senator Tuberville.
Thank you, sir. And again, I reiterate that that's the hearing we should be having, is on that enormous disruption that happened in the Senate and how the House can help rectify that. Thank you, and I yield back.